Welcome to video 3. Yes. My my next video, this video, video 3, will be presenting my third biblical point, which is homosexuality really a sin? Leviticus 18:22. Those infamous 12 little words that you, Mr. Fred Phelps, of course, love to quote. But you know what? It's funny. I love to quote them too. Of course, I do it more blasphemously, but still. And you smartass can do your little semicolon in the middle. It doesn't matter to me, because you know what that means? It means a crock of shit to me, and here's why. Leviticus 18:22 does state, "Man shall not lie with mankind, as with womankind it is abomination." Well, can't argue that. It is in the book of Leviticus, which is part of the Torah, which is part of the Pentateuch. Well, it is the Pentateuch, but that's besides the point. It is part of the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, a.k.a. the law of Moses, the Levitical law, the law of sin, the law that shows man what sin is, the law that allows man to see what sin is. This is sin. This is the law of sin. It's not sin. It is the law of sin. It shows man what sin is and how to obey by holiness, you know, how to be holy, 101 basically. Don't do this and you'll be holy. Well, there's one problem. No one could keep the 600 and some odd commandments. Yes, there's more than 10 people. There are more than 10 because it goes on what you would call a decalogue system, aka there is 10 basic overviews, aka there are 10 laws, and then there are definitions to those laws, aka laws that support those laws, such as you have "thou shalt not commit adultery," and then the Bible goes in to tell you exactly what adultery is. Man on man action, women on women action, which Romans takes care of that in the New Testament, but that's besides the point. The point is, the punishment and the penalty for being a homosexual, according to the Bible, is death. Quite odd, though, that just a few verses down from that law is another law, you know. The law about adultery, and that you're not supposed to commit adultery. And if you do, the punishment for that is death. What a coincidence. There's death all the way around. Death. Well, you know what? It's pretty funny that a prostitute comes to mind in the New Testament who laid at Jesus' feet and was forgiven. Go on, Fred Phelps. Scream that we need to die. Scream that God hates us. But he himself said, "Neither do I accuse you." I'm jumping the gun. Let me tell the story first. Jesus Christ, hated of all the religious leaders of the time, hated by most of his people for speaking truths. I don't believe he spoke the truth. I believe he did speak truths, though. Like I said, I'm not Christian. Anyways, this poor creature of a woman was dragged before him, you know, caught in the act of having sex outside of wedlock, whether that meant she was married, a virgin, betrothed, a slave, whatever, doesn't matter. It was out of wedlock. She was thrown at the feet of Jesus And the reason why was not because the men who threw her at his feet were holy in any way or wanted her dead because she had broken the law. No more it was they wanted to try to trick and to try to trap Jesus. The Pharisees and the Sadducees, they try to do that a lot. They really do. So they bring in this prostitute, this whore. They throw her at the feet of Jesus and say, "We caught this woman committing adultery. We caught her in the act." In the act. And might I add, by the way, how embarrassing. The point is that Jesus Christ just bent down and started drawing in the mud. Just started drawing in the mud, drawing in the dirt, sand swirls, twigs and sticks. That's all he did. The people were like, huh? Because what they had done is they had come up to him and said, the law of Moses, see, once again trying to trap him. The law of Moses says that we stone her to death. But what do you say? And the way they were trying to trap him was, here's Jesus Christ professing to be this loving, caring, merciful, forgiving God. And here is the 10 Commandments that Moses gave that say, stone her. If Christ would have said stone her, they would have been like, well, you can't be the Messiah because you're a liar. You're not loving nor forgiving. And if he would have said, you're forgiven, they would have been like, oh, you're a liar and a sinner because you lied to us and said that you have never committed a sin. Which, in fact, you have committed a sin because you just broke the law of Moses right now by breaking the law of Moses and saying you can't stone her. So, Mr. Messiah, you're not the Messiah. You're not the Messiah. You're not the Messiah. Crucify him, crucify him, da-da-da, all that bullshit, right? But the answer that Jesus gave was magnificent and nothing short of quick-witted. They nagged him and nagged him and nagged him until he finally got frustrated, got up and said, you know what? He who is without sin cast the first stone. One by one, they dropped their rocks and rubble in the rubble pile and went home because every one of them had sin in their heart. Every one of them. Which brings me to my next point. The wages of sin, Paul says, is death, no matter what sin we do. Homosexuality is as equal as stealing. Mr. Phelps, the leading authority in America who steals hope from people and murders. You're a murderer. The definition of murderer in the original Hebrew that is used in the Bible does not refer to someone who kills somebody, although it can mean that. It actually refers to someone who slaughters someone. That means you could slaughter their reputation, such as you have done at the countless funerals of many dead soldiers. You are guilty of murder by the Bible definition of the word, sir. And I'm sorry to condemn you of that, but you are guilty of that. That's your sin. I've seen it. America's seen it. You can't deny it. We've seen it. God's seen it. But that don't matter to me. I've seen it. That's what matters to me. Once again, not Christian. That's what matters to me. I'm just using my logic and my reason, since I actually have those capabilities, you know. Anyways, so they drop their stones and they go home because they've got sin and they're not about to stone this poor woman. Not after what Jesus said. I mean, he wins yet again. Guess that's why he's God. Anyways, that's not even the important part of the story. The most amazing important part of the story is when Jesus Christ looks at the woman and says, woman, where are thine accusers? And she says, I have none. They've all gone. The most amazing part is that he looked her in the eye and said, neither do I accuse you. Go and sin no more. Now, go and sin no more. He was able to do that because later he would take her punishment on the cross, as well as our punishments for all mankind, because he is a loving and a gracious God. Does God condone homosexuality? No, but everybody's got a thorn in their side, including Paul, the great apostle. But our grace is sufficient. I'm sorry, God's grace is sufficient.